Hello and welcome to Entrepreneur TV. I'm your co-host Val McGallant, and I'm super excited to have you here today. We have a fantastic guest for you. For those of you who are out in YouTube land, make sure you come on over to Facebook and look up Entrepreneurs with Terry Levine, and you'll be able to join with more heart-based business owners like myself, like our special guest, and like Terry Levine. We'd love to have you. So today's show, I'm really excited and very curious about how to delegate smarter and why a VA may not be your best first hire. Today's guest is Nicole Bandes. I hope I said that right. After losing her 17-year-old son, Nicole Bandes discovered her purpose: encourage others to make time for what matters most. In 2017, Nicole found Virtual A-Team. If you're old like me, I caught that. A virtual services agency helping overwhelmed coaches who want to define success by the wealth of their lives, not the size of their bank accounts. Nicole now walks the walk, working under 20 hours a week, and also hosts Coach's Co-Pilot, your online business manager podcast. Welcome to the show, Nicole.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
I am too. There's a lot going on just in that title. So how to delegate smarter and why a VA may not be your best first hire. So I've done both coaching and I've also been a VA, and I've been an administrative for years. So when I saw your topic for today and it said why a VA may not be your best first hire, I was like, what? That doesn't make sense to me. So I want to know why you state that.
Well, a lot of entrepreneurs think that a VA is kind of an end all be all, and they're really not. A VA's sweet spot is being able to do things that you already know. You already have a system around, you already have a process for those things, and you can easily assign out those things to a VA. But what a lot of business owners expect is that a VA is going to know how to do the things that they don't know how to do. And that's a big myth in the virtual assistant world. So if you don't already have a process around it, if you don't already know what the system is supposed to look like, then a virtual assistant may not be that first person that you should be hiring. It might make sense to hire somebody that can help you put those systems and processes in place, or that has a
Mm.
higher level of expertise in a given area so that they know what to do and they can take that project off your plate entirely rather than you having to manage that virtual assistant.
Okay, I really like that. It does. So I've done a lot of executive assistant work over the years. So that kind of sounds like what you're saying is stepping it up a notch. So a VA would be your administrative assistant, and and what you're talking about is somebody to support you with creating those processes and getting you in that flow first, and then maybe bringing in a VA to maintain. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, exactly. And the reason there needs to be a distinction out there in the world, because a lot of people kind of lump all of that into one big bucket of virtual assistant category. And when they do that, and when we're out there educating our business owners to say, hey, go out and get a VA, and then they see that there's, VAs in the Philippines for $5 an hour. Well, that's all good and well if you already know what your process looks like. But I guarantee you that that you're going to struggle if you try and hire a VA from the Philippines for $5 an hour and then expect them to have a high level of understanding of how to take over all of the things in your business, as opposed to you just telling them, here's what I need you to do. I need you to input this over here and do this and drive that, and that's it.
Okay, that's making a lot of sense to me, because what I'm hearing is, one, it's kind of like a project manager, because they're implementing a lot of stuff. And the other thing it reminded me of, and you can tell me if I'm kind of on target with this or not, is it'd be like having a plug and play mouse, plugging it into your computer, but not having the software already installed.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, and I'm the queen of analogies, so I love it.
You're welcome. So, okay. Okay. So that's kind of helped me wrap my head around why you feel a VA may not be your best first hire. That's if you don't have your systems already in place. If you're somebody who's like newly building your business, bringing in somebody to help you establish the systems might be more value.
Yeah,
Okay.
and before we go on, there's another area that a VA might not be your best first hire either, and that's if you don't have a lot of experience or desire to manage your teams. So there's a lot of business owners
Mm.
out there that just don't know how to manage another person. It's not that they don't have the desire, and they're absolutely brilliant in the things that they do well, but managing people can be a whole nother skill set. And in that case, it might be a better option for you to work with a business director, or sometimes they're called online business managers, somebody who has more ability to be self guided and self directed rather than a VA who often is sitting back waiting for you to assign the next task.
I like that. So kind of like an office manager. I give my overall stuff to my office manager, and they're the ones that go out and make sure the right people are implementing what I need.
Right, right. Yeah. And if you don't like managing people, you need to have somebody that's kind of that middleman or middle woman or middle person to be able to do all those things for you so that again, you can stay in your zone of genius.
I love that. I love that a lot. Okay. So virtual A team. Okay. I already alluded to the fact that I'm old.
Aren't we? I'm older than I look, so I might not have
So
the gray hair yet, but I'm
the
still approaching my 50th birthday.
the A team. So that is I love actually, I'm going to go there. I love the name that you've created for your business because we are virtual. I mean, there's so much we can do in a virtual world right now. We can support anyone from anywhere. Um, and it's a team. So basically, I'm hearing, and you can tell me again if I'm on target, you're actually bringing a team to the table and it's not just a single virtual assistant. So, am I right with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So rather than our clients having to go out and find each individual expert, and that could be a graphic designer, could be a copywriter, could be a podcast editor, producer, all of these different experts, which entrepreneurs might need on a one project basis or they might need on an ongoing basis, rather than the client having to go out and find that individual for each different project or task. We do it all. We have our business directors that are managing the entire team of experts. And at any point in time that a client needs a new expert, well, they're already there. They're already a part of our team to be provided to our clients without all of that effort to have to go out and find and try and hire and manage and deal with each individual finger on the hand of your team.
I like that. I like that. Okay, so I'm gonna pull it back just a little bit because I'm going pretty deep into what your business actually is. So I think I want to start out with like what inspired you to create this?
Well, like most good stories, it's not a short one, but I'll try and keep it as concise as possible. I've always been, I sort of consider myself an innately lazy person in that I'm a chronic migraine sufferer, and it was always up to me to find a better, smarter way to do things, a way that I could do things in less time. And that way I always had that ability to take the downtime when I needed to. And I realized In 2013, my husband and I lost one of our sons. He was killed in a
Mm,
head-on car crash um, on 4th of July, so coming up on the 9-year anniversary here. And I had an opportunity to really reflect on all of the coulda, woulda, shouldas. And because I had been very deliberate with making sure that I spent my time wisely because I had to, I realized that I didn't have a lot of coulda, woulda, shouldas. I didn't have a lot of moments where I said, man, I should have spent more time doing this with him. Or if only I had been there when this, I was very deliberate with the way that I spent the time. And because I always want to find meaning in even the ugliest situations,
mm.
the meaning that I could give to that was an opportunity to give to others. The gift of having the time to spend on what matters most. So I started out by coaching on productivity and teaching entrepreneurs how to be more productive and focus on managing their time more. And at the end of the day, they all kept saying to me, I just need to clone myself. So I had a moment of weakness and I said, well, I can do this thing for you. I can manage all of the stuff that's on your business. And I realized I don't want to actually do the stuff myself, so I need to have a team that's going to do that. And that's where virtual A team was born, was this ability to be the VA whisperer essentially between the client and the experts, because the client doesn't know how to talk to the experts and the experts often don't know how to talk to the client. So by putting myself and later my team members in that place, my directors in that position to be the go between, it made the process effortless for my clients. So they really truly could do something that otherwise there were so many barriers in their way to get done.
I like that. I like that a lot because I mean, even though I have, you know, the administrative background and I can talk administrative, um, what it reminds me of is that I don't have to be the one going out and networking and interviewing and, for whether it be my social media, whether it be, some of the administrative tasks, right? Communicating with my clients, all of those kinds of things. I don't have to be the, I don't have to use any of my time to set that up. It's just basically I get to go to you and say, here's what I need, make it happen.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's so many things that we don't even think of. I think one of the hard things that entrepreneurs deal with when it comes to outsourcing and delegating is the ability to give over ownership of a project, because they're so
Mhm,
used to it. This is my business, it's my baby, and I want to dress my baby how I want to dress my baby. I want to take them to the school that I want to take them to. Everything has to be my decision. And
mhm.
one of the most powerful gifts that we can give ourselves is letting go of that decision making process and trusting our team to be able to say, just as an example, this morning I had a concept that I came up with for an explainer video on my website. So if you don't know what an explainer video is, it's this idea that kind of describes what your process is and how it's different from everybody else. So I had this idea for an explainer video, and I drew out a very rough sketch of it, and then I sent that over to my team, and I said, now you make it happen. I didn't give them specific details. All I said is, I want an explainer video, and here's kind of the thought process that I'm thinking about. Other than that, it's your project, your baby. You take it and run with it. And now, rather than me spending hours going back and forth trying to get them to understand my concept, I know that it's totally off my plate and I can go on my vacation and not worry about it until, I come back. It'll be done and completed for me to review. And I might have a few tweaks here and there, but overall, I'm taking myself out of the equation and realizing that whatever they create, is going to be brilliant.
I love that. I really love that because I know one of the things that Terry teaches is that we need to take that CEO chair.
Mm.
And so again, what I'm hearing is I like to use the analogy of Captain Kirk because I grew up on Star Trek. We're not going to get into a Star Wars conversation here. But
Sure.
Captain Kirk knows a lot, but he doesn't know everything. He's got his first mate, he's got his officer, he's got his navigator, and he trusts that they are the experts in what they are doing, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is when we take on somebody like your A team, I get to sit in my CEO chair. I get to be doing, like you said, those things that are in my zone of genius. And I don't have to spend a whole lot of time understanding the rest of it. I can do with my high level understanding. I don't have to get into the meat of it because I already trust that, you already know how to do the navigating. You already know the science officer aspects of it. I don't have to know that. I get to trust you.
Yeah, exactly. So if you need an email funnel created, rather than going out and taking this long class and learning all about how to create an email funnel and then having this done one or two times on your website, you hand that over to to us, and we take that and say, all right, here's the information we need from you. Now we're going to plug that into our project template and get it done for you. Saves you money and it saves you time.
Especially time. Oh my goodness. I love what you're sharing here because what I'm hearing is you guys have taken it all in and refined it to a lot of simple solutions. So there's quite a bit of plug and play and maybe a little bit of tweaking um, to to personalize it. So it's not the same as this person's, but it's kind of we already have the understanding. So we're just taking you and plugging it into here.
Right.
Not quite coming out the way I want, but
Well, here's an analogy for you. It's like if you go to a new home builder, and they're probably going to have 8 or 10 different floor plans. All of the homes are going to be similar, but they're not the same. You get to
mm,
go in and you get to pick and choose. Well, I want this finish. I want a bedroom over here instead of an extra garage space. I want this. I want that. So you get to customize it, but they're coming to you and saying, here's the things you get to pick from. So it's so much less overwhelming. And I've been on both sides. I've
mm.
I've had a home custom built, and the process takes forever, versus going through that process of having a home builder that already has the floor plans in place. Saves you a tremendous amount of time.
And a whole lot less stress as well, right?
Much
Like
less stress.
yeah, I get that. So that's like bringing in the architect versus doing the drawings yourself kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or yeah, I like that. Okay. So we've talked a lot about um the support network that we want to bring in our businesses, and we've talked about time because I mean time is that precious thing. I think especially when we look at the way the world has changed and shifted over the years, um, time is coming right up there to be the precious commodity that we have to deal with. I mean, you shared your story with your son and stuff like that. And I mean, I have a 21-year-old son, and the time with him, it is precious, right? Like I count my blessings that at 21 he still comes over for dinner once a week. And I cherish every single bit of that. So How do you suggest or how do you support entrepreneurs and coaches and that kind of thing to better manage their time, to be have their time work for them rather than against them?
Yeah, and this is a great question. And, I want to share that when I started out in my business, I wasn't working less than 20 hours a week by any means. But it was a deliberate choice. I knew from day one that that's the goal that I wanted to get to. And even further along the process, Terry works less than 20 hours a month. And that's like, okay, that's where I would love to be. But it was a very conscious choice. So every decision I made was around that. And that's kind of the first thing that's really critical is to make that decision and make decisions in your business around that goal. So when you can really think about, when they choose a word of the year kind of thing. My word has always been team or collaboration or something along those lines that says, this is where I want to move. I want to move to having somebody that can do this in my business. I want to move to taking me out of this role in the business. And one of the things that our business directors do a lot of is work with our clients to help them determine what are the best next steps. Now, they're not business coaches by any means, and I want to make sure that I'm clarifying that. But they work with this audience quite a bit, so they can help you as a coach or an online business owner evaluate what are your goals, what projects do we have that we're considering, and how can we get the best bang for your buck so that the projects we're taking off your plate are going to be the ones that are going to relieve your time and your stress and your budget the most effective way possible. So for one client that might be, oh my god, I hate being in social media, I can't stand doing social media, so take that off my plate please. And so, good, done, let's get that off your plate. The next client, me, bookkeeping. I can't stand doing bookkeeping. If I could clean toilets instead of bookkeeping, I probably would. But so that's something that is a huge time saver for me, not just in the fact, I mean, honestly, my bookkeeping doesn't take that long for me, but the amount of time that I spend ruminating over having to do the bookkeeping was horribly stressful and horribly anxiety driven. And I'm like, let me get that the heck off my plate, because it just the that you feel
Mm,
when you get
mhm.
something like that off your plate is enough to reduce your stress and increase your productivity in other areas.
I like that. You talk a lot about delegating smarter. I mean, smarter. We have that right in the title of this show today is delegating smarter, and that's kind of what I'm hearing you say. Because, I mean, I get what you're saying about the bookkeeping and the alternatives and everything like that. I've actually gotten some pretty creative ideas cleaning toilets, right? So, but what I'm hearing is when we delegate those things that trigger that stress response in us, we relieve that, and that actually opens us up for better creativity, more of the other creative ideas that might come in that can, accelerate our business or serve our clients better, or that kind of thing. I think is that what you mean when you're talking about delegating smarter?
What I love about that is that there are multiple ways we can delegate smarter. And because delegation is such a basic thing, we don't learn it in school. We don't learn it often in our early jobs unless we've been in middle management or above in the corporate world. We probably really haven't learned to delegate. So, just the idea of delegating to a business director instead of a virtual assistant, or having your systems in place, or knowing what your standard operating procedures are, or knowing how to communicate effectively. A lot of times it comes down to um, being able to use language that is clear enough to get your point across. I've worked with a lot of clients, and varying degrees of how much I have to pull from them to understand what it is that they really want to have done. So the more you can work on your communication skills in that regard, the better. And we actually use templates and guides to kind of coax that out of our clients when
Mm.
it's not natural for them to do that. But there's a lot of different ways to improve your delegating. And one of the keys is to remember that delegation goes through a phase, a series of steps. The very first step is when you are going to be spending your most time because you are very hands on. You're doing a lot of training, you're doing a lot of the process still yourself. And the person you're delegating to is more in an observation role. They're learning, they're observing, they're kind of integrating things. The next phase is going to still be a lot of time, but not quite as much. And that's where you're starting to hand off little pieces of things, but
Mhm.
yet it still needs to be reviewed by you. And it has to be clarified to make sure that they're picking up on things like your voice or your brand or, different messaging elements, those kind of things. Then you begin to step down into that level where you're assigning more projects to them, and then they're coming to you and asking questions to clarify. This is where many of my clients are. They've given us their projects and tasks. We still have to pull pieces of information out of them because the project is still owned by the client. And then that final phase is what Terry talks about, and being that CEO in your business where you're handing off the whole project and saying, here, it's yours. I know I want this done. Now you go and do it. And that's the most time saving of all. And that's the best way to delegate smartest.
I like that. I like that. And I'm hearing uh, it's a relationship, right? Because it's the curve of trust, right? Like
Yeah.
we're building up the trust, and once the trust is there, then I can let go a little more. And it's the getting clear, and then once there's a lot of good clarity and it goes in. And I think, one of the things that was coming to me while you were talking about that is how many times are we actually throwing these VAs under the bus by expecting them to just be able to pick up and go, and when they can't, it's just like, you didn't do what I needed, you're out.
Right.
Right? How many times does that happen for those people that they're expected to do something like, I have unreasonable expectations of you. You can't give me my unreasonable expectations. So now I'm going to be unreasonable and undo the whole thing. Right? Like there's a whole lot of unreasonable there.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that our business directors are great at is managing those expectations for the client. So, they can push back and say, you want this turned around in 24 hours, and that's not going to happen. Here's something that's going to be more reasonable. VAs often don't have the wherewithal to stand up to their clients, to be able to push back a little bit and say, that's not a possibility, that's not reasonable, because they're afraid of being fired, frankly. And oftentimes it doesn't attract a strong personality that can really stand with the client, not up to the client, but with the client, to be able to say, let's work on this in a way that you're going to get the best possible results and minimize potential damage.
I like that. I like that. I like that you added the distinction of standing with the client, because what I'm hearing when you explain that is the two of you were looking at the problem rather than at each other
Right.
for what needs to be done. And you're looking at the project, you're looking at the problem, you're looking for the solution together rather than pointing fingers at each other. And it's like, well, you didn't give me this and you didn't do that. It's like, let's look at the problem together.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to put it.
Awesome. Okay. So there's one really important question that I have, that I know you share quite a bit of information, or you have shared information on this, and I think it's really valuable for the people who are listening. Is how do we know if we can afford to outsource? Because there's a lot of new businesses, especially, now there's a lot of new virtual businesses coming out here. How do we know that we're ready and able to afford outsourcing?
That's a great question. And being ready comes down to more than just how much money you're making in your business. It's how much is your time worth, because your
Mm.
time is so much more valuable than the dollar figure, because you can earn more money, you can't earn more time. It's just not possible. But fortunately, we created a handy little calculator that's going to go in and figure out what your time and what your dollar is worth, and let you know what can you afford to pay somebody to get that outsourcing in place, because it's probably a lot more than you would think you can.
Interesting. And I think too, um, having somebody to have the conversation with in the first place, you can find out. Again, what I'm hearing is your business directors. I love that you chose the title directors, because they're really supporting. They would be supporting me in the direction of the business, like the back office of my business,
Yeah,
right?
their long title is directors of stuff you don't have time to do.
I love that. That is awesome. I lost my train of thought on that, but because I got distracted by director, because I really like that um, visual to come with this, because I'm going to hazard a guess, and I might be wrong, but having a conversation with a business director is going to give me, here's the first things that we can impact, rather than necessarily the whole picture, but here's the first things we can impact. And then once we've impacted that, then we can impact this, then we can impact this, and we can actually bridge our way forward into a larger back office.
Yeah, for sure. Our directors, we like to think of ourselves as your right hand. So we really want to dive deep into understanding who you are, why you chose the business that you did, what are your products and services, how do you market all of those things. All of that conversation happens in that very first call with your director, because without knowing that, then we can't help guide you on what makes sense to do next. So if you're like, hey, I've got a one on one coaching program and I know I want to do an evergreen program, but you're just telling your VA, I want to work on my social media, they don't know how that relates to the bigger picture. So your director takes the bigger picture for you and consolidates that to the experts in the bite sized chunks that they need. Somebody needs to know that bigger picture in order to make sure that the right hand and the left hand know what they're talking about together.
Okay, I get to be the head, they get to be the hands. I got it.
Right.
What I love about that too is it makes me think that for those people who are out there that have that brilliant idea, that have the new strategy or the new widget that's going to make a huge difference, I think it would be really of value to have a conversation with someone like one of your business directors even before they open their doors.
Yeah, it certainly can be valuable, because we can help businesses at any phase in the process, whether they're brand spanking new and they need everything from branding to a website to, even just figuring out what their core product or service is. Again, we're not the business coaches to help you formulate that plan, but there are certain essential pieces that you need to have in place, and you may not have
Mhm.
the expertise to do that. So if you want to accelerate your launch of your business, we can certainly help with that, all the way up to the business who doesn't yet have a team, but they know that they're on the cusp of the next growth spurt, and they better have their systems in place before they get there. Otherwise, everything's gonna, the house of cards is just gonna come crumbling down.
Yeah, yeah. You don't want the bottleneck happening right when you're on the verge of growth.
Right.
Absolutely not. Okay, brilliant. We actually went over time, and thank you for being patient with me on that, because I think you do bring a lot of valuable information to the table for our community, both inside the Facebook group and on YouTube. So thank you so much for your time today, Nicole. I think you've brought a really wonderful mindset for our listeners to pay attention to.
Well, for sure. And if you don't mind, I just want to mention, because I did mention the calculator, people
Oh,
can
yeah.
grab that at canyouaffordtooutsource.com in case they're wondering, like, okay, great, where's this calculator you mentioned? That's where you can get it, is canyouaffordtooutsource.com.
Awesome. Perfect. So thank you so much for your time today, Nicole. I really appreciate it. I've loved the information you've shared. And I look forward to seeing you more in the community.
For sure. Thanks so much. I appreciate being on.
And thank you to our listeners, both inside of Entrepreneurs with Terry Levine and out in YouTube land. Look forward to connecting with you more, and we'll see you on the next show. You have a brilliant day.